Hello everybody. In this screencast we're going to look at passing query parameters and route parameters. So let's look at query parameters. Query parameters are really simple. So let's have get API, for example. This is a get request and I want to add some query parameters. So now to get the query parameters, all you do is let's print them, and they are in the request, right? Dot, and then you indicate you want the query parameters. So we'll see what these query parameters are. The query parameters is just called query, right? So now let's supply some query parameters to the API users. That's the API users, right? It says users hello world, right? Now to add query parameters, it's question mark and let's say ID equal 100, and you press enter, and you can see here that we're printing the query parameter. It's printing something else before it. Let's see. So it is, so these are the query parameters. Like for example, to retrieve the ID, all you have to do is, let's do this. I'll copy this here and I'll say ID dot ID. Okay. And then if I run it now, you see here I'm printing the ID. You see here is the query parameter and under it is the ID, right? You see here. So, but of course you have to do validation, because sometimes, because this is input is provided by the user, like you can also put another variable. For example, I could say sort by, for example, the name of the user, and press enter, and you can see here that you get a JSON, right? So basically it is passed automatically into JSON. These are called query parameters, right? And so basically these are query parameters. Okay, so that's how you get the query parameters. Now there is other kinds of parameters which are called the route parameters. And route parameters, let's say we do this. Let's say I would like to get from users, I would like to get a specific user ID. So I'll say UID, right? So basically this means that this is the route, right? But then you see here that you specify the route parameter that you're expecting, and to retrieve the route parameters is request.params. Okay, so now basically to do this, I'll go here and I'll say users, right? And let's say I want to use user 100, right? And I press on enter, and you could see here that I'm receiving UID as 100, which is a route parameter. So that's another approach. You can have multiple route parameters, meaning that you can do this, and I want in his messages, I want the message ID. So basically you can request user 100. Now when you run it, you see it will, when you run it, it says it's not a valid route because doesn't match any. You know, you need to also specify messages, and then let's say message 200, and press enter, and you could see here that this is a route parameter. You could see the route parameters coming in, and they're coming in through params. Very simple, very straightforward. So we looked at how to do query parameters and how to do route parameters. These are route parameters. Okay. Now what's the difference between query parameters and route parameters? Of course, the route parameters are part of the route itself, and they are required for the route to function, right? The query parameters are parameters that are usually optional, or they are optional parameters, and they are parameters that are not actually part of the route. So if I don't specify even, like for example, if I just say get me users, something like this, I get empty route parameters, I get empty query parameters, but still that route works, right? But it's not the same concept with regard to route parameters. Route parameters, you need to have these parameters for this route to be triggered. All right. Please let me know if you have any questions.